work papers that were like just overboard from me. I'm like, what is this, Falski? And I mean, what is this stuff? I'm like, oh no, I'm going up to vocal music. I'm out of here.
My name's Adam, and this podcast is about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new EP you have coming out.
Nice. That's what's up. That's what's up, man.
Right on. Born and raised in Oakland?
Absolutely. East Oakland to be exact.
Okay, East Oakland. Talk to me about that. I lived up in the Bay Area for a little bit. I was on the radio up there for a while.
What part of the Bay?
I was in like Walnut Creek, so a little east of you
okay.
when I lived there.
Okay, got
but I didn't know anything about it at all when I moved up. I didn't know anything about. I'm from San Diego, Southern California. I never really spent much time in the Bay Area, and then when I moved up there, I was like, "Whoa, this is so big! Like it's crazy."
Yeah, it's super spread out, man. You know what I mean? There's so many different areas, and I've lived in every part of the Bay, every part of Oakland, a little bit of Walnut Creek. You know what I mean? Everywhere, man. And that's kind of helped me be, pretty versatile and easy to adapt anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But
sure.
I was born and raised East Oakland, High Street for a lot of years. Moved over to 98th, man. And that's really where a lot of my game and experiences sort of came from. Especially with the girls, and that kind of led to me wanting to sing and do this music thing for real. Because I always saw how entertaining touched people, how it made people feel, how it made me feel looking at people, being engaged with me. So, I think East Oakland kind of gets a bad rep. Oakland in general gets a bad rep sometimes, because
beautiful city.
It is pretty rough, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's anywhere you go, man. Any city, any place you go to, it's got its ups, it's got its downs, it's got its areas you want to be careful in. Of
course. I mean, San Francisco has a ton of those areas.
Come on, man.
What's going on?
Yeah. It's hard to be like this one place is hella bad. But I think with Oakland, it really taught me, to just be aware, always be aware of my surroundings, what's going on, kind of thinking ahead, not just being oblivious all the time, man. So, it's taught me to really just be cognizant of everything that's going on around me at all times, So again, coming from Oakland, growing up in that type of environment, going other places, I use that when I go. I done been to some pretty horrible places around the world too, man.
Sure.
but I've been able to function and move around, because the rules are all the same, man. You stick to what you be yourself, you be aware, no showing out, and you're good.
Yeah, man, I love Oakland. I used to go hang out around Lake Merritt, like beautiful. I mean, a lot of that is
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lake Merritt is the spot, man. I got so many memories, man. I think a lot of girls got that walk around the lake to get it. You know what I mean?
Of course. It's a great spot. To take them.
Especially late at night. You got the lights going, everything. Man, you can really do your romance thing. You
sure. Sure. Oh, that's amazing. Well, how did you get into music? Your parents musical at all, or brothers and sisters?
My pops, man, he was in the entertainment field, but not really singing, man. He was an actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. And it's dope, man. I always heard about his stories. He came up with Denzel and Delroy Lindo and Danny Glover. Yeah, man. All these different people. But my pops, he liked the women, and he's a little Rolling Stone kind of, so had a lot of kids, man. So he had to really make a decision on what he wanted to do, if he was gonna, keep going and lose his family, or if he was going to put 100% there. And luckily he did. Fortunately he did. And still was able to be very successful, man, and able to give me game as I came up, because he saw it young in me. Music has kind of been something that, I don't know, man, since I was young, it touched me. It had me feeling a certain way. It moved me. And again, like I said, seeing how other people would react to me entertaining, that drug, man, just took me on, and I couldn't stop, and I think he saw that. So he still applied all those things that he learned, mistakes that he made and gave them to me, you know, to make sure that I didn't do the same thing. And my mother was very adamant young with me about seeing that I loved music. So she was like, man, if you like music so much, you're going to do it 24/7. You're not going to be out here in these streets. You're not going to be out here just doing whatever, you know? So I was in young musicians programs. I was going to charter schools that were like everything's from 8 to 5:30, straight music and academics every day, man. I mean, I gave a lot of my youth to the craft, you know? So that's why today I think I'm able to do it so well. You know, I have such a passion for it, you know, and I give them all the credit, man. They really worked as a team when it came to helping me elevate and kind of just nourishing that interest that I had, you know. So nobody really had it. I can't say that I got it from anybody particular. I really believe, man, if you do something enough, you do it a lot, you're gonna start getting good at it, man, you know. And I'm not like the Christina Aguilera stories, man, where you look back at videos and you're like, damn, that boy was sounding good at 6. No, I was sounding pretty bad. But I don't know, man. I just kept doing it. I just kept doing it, man. I had a love for it. I loved you know, Usher and Genuine and you know, people like that. I would listen to their songs. I'm like, oh man, again, it started off about the macking. You know what I mean? I was trying to mac on all the girls, you know, so let me sing the songs. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man, the passion just grew and it got to a point where I had to make a decision and get serious, especially if I'm giving all of these years to it, you know?
You attended Oakland School of the Arts, correct?
Yeah, for high school.
Oh, okay. So you went there in high school, and you went what? I did see you went in 03, and that school was really new at that time, right? It had only been around for
it's funny, man. I was just having a conversation with one of my old alumni yesterday, matter of fact, and it started off. The school opened in 2002, and they opened with 1 grade, and that was 9th grade. So every year they stacked on a new grade. Another grade. Yeah, so it went from 100 kids to 200 to 300 to 400, and then once it got to the full high school, 9th through 12th, then they added 6 through 8.
Oh, so they did add the grade. So okay,
they added grade school later on, which for me was kind of like, you know, I wasn't really trying to be around the little kids, but you know, but I still think that being at that school, especially with the first year, only 200 kids, man, it was like a village. It wasn't like a normal high school where, you know, you have a bunch of cliques and you have enough kids there where everybody is kind of not involved in everybody's stuff. You know, with our school, it was like a family, you know, so we were living kind of grown in high school. You know what I mean? It was again, 8 to 5:30. It was damn near all year round, man, you know, because they had extensions, you know, like I said, the young musicians programs at UC Berkeley, things like that. So there was extensions that they had, you know, that if you were, in layman terms, if you were dope, you got thrown in all of these different extra things. And for me, it was 24/7 all year round, man. But I loved it though, because especially now, because I feel like I'm able to do this job this way, this professional, you know, because of what they taught me. I mean, literally everything I do today, we were doing in high school. We weren't living like high school kids, man. They were treating us like y'all already professionals. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of schools that do that, especially nowadays.
No, and you know, unfortunately, you know, the school has kind of been turned into more of, I mean, they started trying to adjust it, you know what I mean? Like, because of everything that's going on in the city right now, you know, before to get into school, you had to audition, you know, you had to go through a process and everything. And now they've taken the audition process out. So now it's just kind of letting kids in, man. Yeah, so it's gone through a lot of changes since we were there, but I think that I'm just blessed and lucky that when I was there, you know, there was a certain curriculum and there was a certain standard that was set, you know.
And you would think that they would want to keep that, right? I mean, that if you go and audition, you obviously have the passion to want to pursue that.
And that's what I say. That's what I say. I mean, for us, again, you talking about 300, 400 kids, 9 through 12. These were the cream of the crop. You know, there were a lot of kids audition, and out of the 300-400 kids that would audition, like I said, 100 would get picked. So if you messed up, that next person waiting to get into the school was, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was always like being on your toes.
Right.
And now it's kind of like
you just handed it, right?
Yeah, it's high school. You know? Yeah.
What did you do for the audition process? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, I'll never forget it, bro. I auditioned for two different things. I auditioned for theater and I auditioned for vocal.
Okay.
And with vocal music, I stayed up for 2 nights with my pops working on a song. And what's hella funny is he was sold on me singing John B. Don't stop, baby, just groove with me. Take a sip, get you feeling jiggy. You know what I mean? And I practiced this song for 3 days straight. I got into the audition. I stood before 4 judges, you know, the dean, a couple of the main teachers in there. And I was so nervous, man, but I started singing the song and I probably got 3 or 4 words out. And the dean stopped me and was like, hold on. He looked at my sheet and he was like, sing Lift Every Voice. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? So I just started, I'm like, I don't know all the words, but I know enough. So I started singing it. He stopped me. He was like, good job. All right, thank you. I was like, I don't think I got in.
Yeah.
You know, so I was kind of worried. Then the next week I had to do the theater audition. And my pops really worked with me on that one. And we did Mark Anthony.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did Mark Anthony. And it was crazy because that was the first time that I realized that maybe acting is something I could do, you know, because I was just trying. He forced me to try. He's like, look, I'm an actor. You're going to try. You're going to audition for theater. I went in there, man. And the same dean, after I was done, he stopped me. He was like, so what do you like doing more? You like singing or you like acting? And I was like, after this audition, I like acting, you know? And yeah, I remember telling him. And I got in for both. You know, they let me in for both, but you can only do one emphasis. You have to do one for 3 years. So I had a year to figure it out.
Okay.
And at first I was in acting and in theater, and the teacher started throwing out all of these different like essays and like, you know, work papers that were like just overboard from me. I'm like, what is this, Falski? And I mean, what is this stuff? I'm like, oh no, I'm going up to vocal music. I'm out of here. And that's how I ended up doing vocal for 3 years, because I was like, nah, the acting thing is too difficult. But no matter what I did, even though I was in vocal, every year I was in the musicals. Every year I was in other plays and stuff. So I still got the best of both while I was there.
That's amazing. And when did you start writing your own songs?
Shoot, I started writing my own songs probably 10th grade.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, probably about 10th grade. I mean, because you're around all these musicians, man. You're around all of these talented individuals. You watching people on the piano creating songs and creating music. You like, oh man, I'm not gonna get left out. You know, I can't be behind. So, you know, at the same time, I was playing piano. I was messing around with other instruments and things, you know, and I formed a band and we called ourselves Johnny.
Okay.
Johnny, yeah, it was crazy. I don't know. Don't ask me where the name came from. Just like, it sounds good.
Sure, it does. It's a good name.
Yeah, and then every Wednesday and Friday we would rehearse at my house. So we would come up to the house. We would set up in the living room and we would just jam out. We would write songs. You know, throughout the week, I would go through things and create music. And then when we would get together, I'd bring it to the band. They would start, you know, putting their funk on it. And after a while, man, we started going out and hustling to get gigs, man. So we were at these venues when we weren't supposed to be. We was the youngest thing in there. And they let us audition to show what we could do. and then they would give us a slot, like make us like a resident performer, you know, like, all right, well, y'all come in every Thursday night and y'all perform. So every week we would just practice to do new records, and we'd go in there and you would see all of these old school folks and OGs and everything in there macking while we doing our songs, and they'd be coming up like, okay, youngsters, okay, y'all doing y'all thing, So it was again, yeah, just all of the elements around me. You can't help but to be creative like that and start, wanting to elevate the craft, man. And that just grew into everything we see today, man. Just, constantly writing, constantly producing. Yeah.
Okay. And from that band, what you obviously broke off and started working on some solo stuff. You put out a record in 2013 that did amazing. I mean, you get a gold single off the album.
Yeah, man,
what was in the interim there between that band and putting out that mixtape?
Honestly, man, I learned early, man, it's tough it's tough for you to give the same passion to all these other people around you. You know what I mean? Everybody doesn't have the same visions. Everybody doesn't want the same things. For some people, it was like, this is a good time. For some people, this is something to kill time. For me, this is what I wanted to do. I knew that since I started the school, and so we broke off, and from there, I started to just find my way, look for different studios to work out of, man. I hooked up with a cat named Jamie Hawkins, who's a part of the Hawkins family, very, very legendary family for gospel music, Walter Hawkins and Lynette Hawkins and stuff. And that's who really kind of taught me how to record. That's who taught me how the elements and what it takes, and from there, then I ended up, hooking up with my first manager, Yancey Richardson, and he brought me out to Atlanta. We started recording. I was supposed to be out there for 30 days, man, and come back. And I ended up living out there for 5-6 years. Yeah, I remember my mom was like, all right, well, 30 days, you'll be back. When we got this set up, da 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 da. And I remember calling her like, you know what? I don't think I'm coming back. I'm looking for an apartment right now. So, but it was cool, man. And that led to my first deal with Universal Republic, and we started working with Raphael Sadiq, worked with all these different super legendary people, man. And we formed 7 days a week, and that kind of was the kickoff mixtape. That was my first actual, out of all the music that I had always done, that was my first project.
Wow.
I had never did a project. We always talked about it, even with the band and all that. But, working on a project is something different. It takes a lot more than just kind of recording songs, and that's when I learned that out in Atlanta. And then after that came 2 a.m. and I didn't personally like the record, but, the guys who were a part of writing it, they came out from, I think, Minneapolis. They flew out and they were like, look, we hear you about to record this record. Everybody thinks it's a hit. And I ended up doing it, and they was right. It became a hit.
I'll say.
So I can't be mad. Shout out to Krishan, shout out to Kyle, shout out to Amp Franks, man. They did their thing with that record for sure.
Wow. And did that really change your career, putting out that song, or were you kind of already on that path? I mean, obviously you're kind of mentored through Raphael Sadiq, right?
Yeah. We hooked up with Ray right before 2 a.m. So for me, I was already elevating, but I would be rude if I said that, 2 a.m. definitely didn't take it up. It was a change that I didn't really get to see. I didn't really get to see it because I was on the road, Yeah, no, I was on the road with Kelly Rowland and The Dream. And,
wow.
Yeah. And that was like my first tour. We were going all the way around. And right before that tour ended, we recorded 2 a.m. and we sent it off to the label. And then I ended up jumping on with Keisha Cole for her tour. And while we were on Keisha Cole is when we started to perform 2 a.m.
Okay. And were you seeing like a response right away?
Yeah, because I didn't know it was out. I'm
Oh,
on
wow.
the around. I'm worried about, yeah, man. I'm worried about, clothes for the next show. I'm worried about all these different things, flights, and we're driving everything.
Uh-huh.
And it started off where nobody knew the record, and then by the time we got to the 8th or 9th show, people were singing the song, and I'm like, how do they know this song? Like, I don't know what's going on. And that's really what it was, man. We really started just hustling the record out there, just performing it everywhere I went. And when I got back home is when I knew how real it was, because when I got back to the Bay, it was like everyone knew me, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was a big record. It was so big that
Right.
I wasn't even aware of it. I didn't know it got to top 4 on the charts. I didn't know nothing, man, because I was so focused on, man, performing and getting out there. I thought that's how you get out there and you hustle it. But while we were doing that, the song was hustling itself. So, I got to see what it was like for a label to push the button and really put the budget behind, So
Sure.
that 2AM was definitely the takeoff.
Wow. And from that record and putting out that second mixtape, was the full length record came next, right? Hashtag GMFU.
Yeah. We started out with 2AM, and again, it was a great record, but unfortunately, with Universal Republic, they were going through a switch at the time. I don't know if you remember, but Lord had Royals had just dropped.
Yes.
Gautier had somebody that I used
Oh,
to know.
somebody you used to know.
Yeah,
Sure.
all of these records had just started to drop, and the label decided to take a switch in their direction, in their focus. So
Right.
honestly, the whole entire urban department got eliminated,
Wow.
and yeah. So it was a change in sound wave, man. And unfortunately, we were the last to get let go,
Mhm.
because we had 2AM working. But for them, they were just like, man, we're trying to, we really want to work this angle. And
Mhm.
I could see that they were trying to lead me that way. And for me,
Ah.
that wasn't gonna work. And we were able to shake hands and walk away. I didn't get no bounty put on my head. I didn't get put on a shelf or nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So it was all good. I walked
Mhm.
away. I walked away clean slate. I was good. And from there, that's when I did GMFU. That was my first sort of independent project.
Right. Well,
I had worked with distribution, but Raphael and I and Yance and a couple other people, we still locked in to make sure that that the music didn't lose its caliber. You know what I
mhm.
mean? It still was high tier, still was great sound, and it still did a lot of great things, man. We toured off of it. That was my first headlining tour, man, which was super exciting. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And and then from there, I think that started to teach me that I wanted to really focus on, you know, kind of knowing more about the business, knowing more than I was. Cause like I said before, man, I was focused on just getting out there and doing the job,
Mhm.
but I wasn't focused on the behind the scenes. I wasn't paying attention to royalties and mechanicals and copyrights and all of these other elements that go into your craft.
Right.
And so I decided to pretty much take a step back and go fully independent, because I felt like I was leaning on a lot of people,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that. So that's when my next project 98 came out, and that was me coming back home. I moved back to the Bay so that I could really get back to the soil, really kind of connect with some people that I hadn't in a while.
Mhm.
And I created 98. It was my first project, even after GMFU, that I actually was a part of the entire creation of it, from the vibe, the theme, the graphics, the music. I started producing more, so I produced 80% of 98.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really was a step up for me, just mentally. And I really, you know, learned about registering, learned about, you know, PROs, learned about all of these things that so many of us artists, man, we don't pay attention to, because, you know, we're more invested again in the limelight, in the fame and the stardom and all of that. But, you know, for me, it became more aware that if you really want to have longevity, man, you got to really have all your ducks in order with these records too. You know, one record could take care of you forever, you know? And that's when I started to really just wrap my mind around being a business and a brand rather than just an artist.
An artist on a label. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense now, especially in these current times, right? I mean,
yeah,
labels are great, but if you already have the numbers and they're coming to you, it's like, well,
exactly.
Instead of what are you going to do for me, is what I mean, instead of what can they do for you, it's like, what can they
no, you got it. What can you do? What can I do?
Like,
not what can I do for you? What can you do for me? You know,
right? Exactly. I was all confused. Wait a minute.
But yeah, it's you know, I just wanted to create more leverage for myself, man. You know,
totally.
I think it wasn't. You know, I think a lot of artists get bitter sometimes, and you know, it becomes a war against the labels. I don't have no problem with labels. You know, I don't. It's not that. I think if you come prepared, if you come in the right space, and you come with the right leverage, you know, you can have a great marriage with a label, you know, especially if they really understand the artistry, if they understand the vision, and they're willing to coexist and co-work. You know, I think sometimes artists come with no vision, and you know, they just come with the talent. So, you know, you kind of have to respect the fact that these labels want so much because they're putting so much in. You know, and for me now, it's again, it's no slight to labels or nothing like that. I'm not ever saying that I wouldn't get back on a label, but I am saying that I wouldn't get back on a label the same way I did. You know, it would be it's a lot of growth that has happened since then. So, you know, I understand. I mean, it's just like in relationships, anything like that, man. You know, you gotta start off with, you know, with some bad ones, some bad ducks, you know, to know what's good for you and what works for you. You know, you learn what's not for you and you learn what is. And now throughout this time, you know, being in the business sense of this, now I understand it. Now I get it, you know. So it's not about independent or, you know, signed and nothing like that. For me, it's just about, you know, building great relationships and good marriages with great resources. That's it.
I love that. With that being said, you put that record out in 2019. Was it towards the end of the year? Like, where did the pandemic fall with the release of that record?
I put out a couple records, man. I put out a record called Nowhere, you know, at the end of 2019 going into 2020. And we actually had just started tour. So I had, again, stepping my game up, not leaning on nobody. I started to do everything that I wasn't doing even then. So I went in as much as to be like, you know, I want to put a tour together myself. I want to book it. I want to, you know, go through all of the different press. I want to hit up the people that I know and all that. And we started picking up a lot of wave, man. You know, it was great. We started out with 3 shows, and by the time we got to the first one, we ended up having 9. And then by the time we got to the 5th show, we had about 15 shows lined up. So I mean, it was building up.
Growing,
you know, it was growing, and the show was dope. You know, and then we got back, and I started to shoot the videos. So I shot about 5 videos in 3 days. And
wow, right before anything had shut down.
No, I'm talking about literally, I finished March 12th.
Oh man.
March 13th, everything.
You were like prepared for this.
I was prepared, man.
I mean, with all the content.
I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared for how deep it was gonna get.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was prepped, but I didn't know it was gonna be such a shutdown like that. Because for me, the bread and butter was going out there and touring and performing and still getting to the people, you know?
Sure.
So when that shut down, man, I had to make a real decision whether I was going to strain myself and try to force it, or if I was just going to literally say, you know what, this is a calling. This is bigger than me. I need to stop. I need to wait. I need to see what's going on, you know? because you know, I got kids, I got family that I'm around all the, you know, now, and I'm like, me, I want to go out there and be like, I'll face it, but I had to worry about them too. So for me, I started to put out videos, man, but I just saw how the world was going. It was the pandemic, but then it was George Floyd, but then it was other things that were happening. You know what I mean? The police brutality, you know what I mean? All these racial things that were happening, the Trump situations and all of that. So I really had to take a hard thought and say, all right, well, are people listening? And especially, are they listening to what I'm talking about in this particular music? You know, I felt like I didn't want that music to go just skipped over, you know, and I felt like that's what was happening. I was watching it happen to other artists. So I really just took a hard sit. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a break and I'm going to reset. And I did, you know, all of 2020, man, I didn't do any music. I didn't
really
after March. I didn't do no music. I didn't do no studios. I didn't do anything, man. I didn't even produce anything. I didn't even open up my laptop to get on Pro Tools or Logic or none of that, you know.
Was it just like an uninspired thing, or you just wanted to let kind of the
well, I think it was a little bit, it was a mixture, man. I was a little uninspired, but at the same time, I think that there were things going on in reality for me outside of the music that I hadn't paid attention to, you know. So there were things like my daughter was falling behind in school. There were you know, I had just had my son, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, I have these things going on in life, you know, taxes and all, you know, I mean, all kind of stuff, man, credit.
Adulting.
I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm like, so exactly, adulting, man. And I always remembered being on the road and being stressed out because it's like, oh man, my license just got suspended. Well, how did your license get suspended? Because I've been on the road. I didn't go to court. I didn't, of course. You know what I'm saying? So there were things like that always happened when I would be on tour. And at that moment in 2020, I told myself, man, I'm about to fix all of this stuff. You know, I got to work with my daughter. I got to be here. Distance learning was going on. You know,
man, dude, I got two kids. I feel you on that,
bro. I mean, so your house becomes school. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's crazy.
And then on top of that, I had just bought a house. I had bought property at the end of 2019. So I had planned on building my house within 4 or 5 months. And then that hit and shut us down and all this, you know what I mean? So I was still dealing with trying to get this house built, trying to get my kids together, trying to get my taxes in order, credit, and all these other things. And for me, it was like, how can I do all of these things and still give a real effort to this music?
Sure.
You know? And I mean, I prayed about it. And the vibe that I got was to sit back, focus, because for me, it was okay because it was like everything shut down. It's not like I'm the only one stopping and the world is still going. Everybody's stopping, you know? So I took it on the chin, and all of those things, man, started to get fixed, man. My taxes, my credit, you know, my daughter started to catch up. She started soaring in the class, you know, and I got to be a part of that. I got to, you know what I mean? And that ultimately, I feel like, is what started to inspire me to get back, because, you know how it is, like, you do one thing and you succeed in it, you know, your confidence level goes up. You do another thing, you succeed, confidence level goes up. So now you're at a place where, you know, you're fully confident. And it was the end of 2020. It was December. And I finally told myself, man, all right, it's time. I got to get back in the studio. I got to start working again. I talked to my family. I let them know, like, look, I know y'all done got real accustomed to me being around and being here. I said, but I'm about to get real serious. So, you know, more serious than I've ever been. So with that being said, everybody just get ready for the ride, you know, because I'm about to go for it, you know. And just like that, I got in the studio, I started working. And I think that when you start making those steps, you know, the proper steps to what you want, to your goals, you know, I feel like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, you know what I mean, that keeps you motivated, that keeps you going forward. I feel like that started to bring people and other things into my life that were going to help those goals happen and get accomplished, man. You know, I started working with a new team. You know, I hooked up with my boy Sonny B at CRSB, extremely talented songwriter, singer, producer. Nicole, same thing. I mean, all these people that I started getting with, we just locked in, man. And top of 2021, I started renting out Airbnbs and flipping them in the studios. So yeah, man. So we would go get like a 4-bedroom, 3 or 4 bedroom spot with a big yard, or just something that had like some sort of like vibe to it, you know?
Right.
And man, if these people would have came into their house and seen what we were doing to it, I mean, I'm talking about we taking furniture outside, we putting it out on the deck. Like, you know what I mean? We flipped it into a studio, and it became a creative house. So you would have 4 or 5 videographers, 3 or 4 photographers, 5 producers, different writers, other artists. It would be people just showing up. I mean, it became like listening parties and all kind of stuff that we would do. And we would get in those houses for about 4 days, and we would come out with about 7 records. And they would be like, and a lot of those records are the records that, you know, of course, that I'm pushing today, like the new single, I Got You. Yeah. You know, the next single that we got coming out next month. I mean, we really just formed a new sound, in my opinion, for me, and something that I haven't heard in a while, you know, and it just brought me back to that real love that I have for R&B, man. You know, my R&B is like that Jodeci, Genuine, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a little rugged, it's a little ratchet, you know what I'm saying? But it's still the essence of rhythm and blues, you know? And luckily, again, you know, the universe will, when you know what you want and when you're putting those proper steps in, the universe puts you and surrounds you around other like-minded individuals that may be going through the same thing, that maybe want the same things. And we all just locked in and we became a tribe, man. And that's what I call our whole situation now, the Vibe Tribe, because it's a crate. Every time we link, every time we work, there are no misses, man. It's music that I feel like I've wanted to make for so long, but I think it took being around the right people and different, you know, people who have different talents and different expertise, but it all just formed something new, you know, and it was a good timing for it, man. I think I needed that 2020 to really just, you know, just let everything go. Let everything go, man. Right. And then come back brand new, instead of trying to constantly regurgitate or, you know what I mean, just kind of keep tweaking. Nah, it's nothing to tweak. Throw that away, restart, you know, and that's what it's been for me.
That's amazing. And with the EP, would you say a lot of the songs are from the different Airbnbs, and were they and did you get, I'm sure you got a different vibe from each one, and like, does that come out a little bit in the record?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first Airbnb we did, man, was it's crazy because it was called an art house. So the lady who owned it, Lena, when we went in there, her entire house was like an art house, man. It was just like art pieces and things that she created and built, like from her light fixtures and everything, her couches, all her furniture, she built it, she created it. And wow, I think that set the tone for us, because when we got in there, it didn't matter what room you went into, where you were, it was a vibe. It was like, man, this is crazy. This room is the orange room. This room is the blue room. This room, I mean, everything gave you a different feel, man. And I think that kicked it off. And the next one we went into, we called it the Annabelle house, because it was like the Amityville horror. Like it was one of them old school. It was one of them like old school Venetian type houses.
Sure.
And it was so scary, man, because
say like a horror film.
Yeah, it really was. I remember when I got there, I was like, oh man, we might have got the wrong place. I'm like, I feel like something gonna get us in here. Like in my bedroom, there was like a crib. There was an old school crib.
That's
like,
creepy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's real creepy.
Yeah, so everybody slept downstairs. Like nobody
together.
Everybody slept together downstairs, man. And and there was even a basement. I remember somebody being like, yo, we got a basement here. I'm like, lock that thing up. And so we don't never need to go in the basement. We never go in there, you know? But even then, Gotchu was created there, you know?
Interesting.
And yeah. And because at the same time, the outside, there was just this immaculate view and trail of just wilderness and just, I mean, it was beautiful outside, man. And I think that kind of sparked us on that tip to start kind of writing something that was romantic, but still had somewhat of a harder twist to it, you know. And I think that came from the house, because we're trying to be romantic right now, but we still getting these, you know, Annabelle vibes, like, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, absolutely. I think all of the records took the life of the Airbnbs that we were in at the time. Yeah.
That's amazing. What part of the country were you in? Oakland?
Yeah, so
all of them in Oakland?
we did 2 in the Bay, we did 1 in LA. And even now, like, it's a thing still for us. So we have we have a couple that are mapped out, man. You know, I know for me, I kind of want to take it everywhere, man. I want to go do some things in New York. I want to do some things in, you know, Miami. I mean, you know, different. I think I've learned that these different environments, these different spaces open up different things in us that, you know, that, you know, other places can't. You know, I just want to take all the vibes that I can, man, and create with no limit, you know, just create with no limit, man. I mean, especially the fact that at this point, I think one thing that ultimately changed with me was that I'm willing to work with more people. Before, I was very closed in, working with just the team. Now, you know, it's like we're so locked in that it's like, nah, everybody come in, because we're gonna do what we do regardless. And you gotta fit into that. You know what I mean? And if you dope and if you ain't got no ego, then you're gonna be able to be a part of the Vibe Tribe. It's, you know. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And you said you have another record coming out next month.
Yeah,
and
man.
then what, a full EP?
Yeah, from a full EP, we call him the EP Marcel. You know, in my opinion, I spent a lot of time, like I said, working on myself and elevating, evolving, you know, and there's been sides that I haven't showed my audience, you know, about myself. And I feel like, you know, with this type of growth, and especially with where the world has gone, you know, it's no better time than now to be who you are, you know, to accept all parts of yourself, your flaws, your imperfections, you know, the things that you fear you might not want people to know. Is I want to be as real as possible, you know, for my audience. And I feel like they haven't fully got that from me. And I feel like this music now is really an open book now to just my thoughts, my vibes, my feels, man. You know what I mean? I always say my audience hasn't seen it yet, but I think they gonna rock with this dude, you know.
Awesome.
They gonna rock with Marcel.
Well, I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. I mean, I really like the first single you released, I Got You. So I can't wait to hear the rest of it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on what you were just talking about, I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice to aspiring artists.
Absolutely. I feel like, especially like I said, in today, you know, really lock in with yourself before you do anything else, before you try to go out and achieve all these somewhat outlandish goals that us as artists create in our minds and create for ourselves. You know, really lock in with who you are. Know the brand, you know the story. What is the story? What does it look like? What does it sound like? You know, you're a brand. You know, it's not just about you being an artist and you making music. You know, you are a walking billboard for what you want to represent. It's bigger than you. And for me, especially, you know, I spent a lot of time not being so focused on the end goal, but being more focused on the steps that it takes to start in that direction. You know, you always have to make room for error. You always have to make room for changes, because the universe is going to change as you keep going. I mean, obviously we know with the pandemic and what's going on, but if you are set in who you are and what you want and how you are going to go about getting it, then no matter what happens, you will always be able to make those decisions and those moves based around this character or, you know, this persona that you've created or that you are naturally. So just be who you are. You know, stop looking at other artists to give you all the inspiration. You know, like create the inspiration, create the motivation, like create something different. You know, do something different. Be you. And I think that sometimes we start to think too deep. Like being different means, oh, I got to go all the way left field to be different. Nah, it's the smallest thing. And if you're naturally being yourself, those differences will start to come to the surface, and you won't even realize it, but your audience will, the people around you will. Oh man, I can see the difference. I can see the growth. You know, don't be afraid to work with new people. Don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be so locked into one thing. You know, open your mind up and live in the moments. You know, live for the moments. I think that's ultimately, I think that's what all of us should do, is just live for the moments. Bring it back.